Does it feel like your past is constantly trying to knock on your door? Do exes you haven't spoken to in years suddenly reach out? Do new people become obsessed with you, only to panic and leave, and then try to come back the moment you move on? This is not a coincidence, and it is not just bad luck. You are experiencing the Sigma recall. When people lose a Sigma female, they don't just lose a partner or a friend, they lose a standard. They go out into the world, expecting to find someone better, only to realize that the world is full of noise, and you were the only silence. But be wise. Their return is not always a compliment. Sometimes it is just hunger. Here is why everyone wants you back, and why you must guard the gate. 1. Everything else tastes bland. The first and most brutal realization that hits anyone who walks away from a Sigma female is the debilitating standard shock. When they first left, they likely felt a surge of adrenaline, a false sense of liberation, believing they were returning to a world of endless options and easier connections. They stepped back into the dating market with the arrogance of a person who believes they can easily replace what they had. However, the reality of modern dating hits them like a bucket of ice water. They go on dates, they swipe on apps, and they engage in the superficial courtship rituals of the masses, only to find themselves profoundly nauseated by the lack of quality. They sit across the table from someone new, someone who is objectively attractive and seemingly fun, yet they feel absolutely nothing. The conversation feels hollow, like chewing on cardboard. They realize that the people they are meeting are operating on a frequency of neediness, validation-seeking, and social performance that is exhausting to witness. They are suddenly bombarded by people who play mind games, who demand constant text responses, who curate their lives for Instagram, and who cannot hold a conversation about anything deeper than the latest trend or their own ego. This is when the shock sets in. They realize that being with you spoiled them in ways they didn't even understand at the time. You offered them a Michelin star experience of authenticity, deep conversation, and unwavering loyalty, and they foolishly traded it for the emotional equivalent of fast food, cheap, greasy, and ultimately unsatisfying. They didn't realize that your intensity was actually substance. They didn't realize that your silence was peace, not distance. Now, every interaction they have feels like a downgrade. They find themselves mentally comparing every new person to you, and everyone fails the test. They miss the way you challenged their intellect. They miss the way you didn't need them to entertain you because you were whole on your own. They miss the raw, unfiltered truth that you brought to the table. The freedom they thought they wanted has turned into a prison of mediocrity. They are starving for depth, but everyone around them is offering surface-level engagement. This standard shock creates a powerful psychological withdrawal. They begin to crave you not just as a person, but as a standard of living. They realize that you raise the bar so high that no one else can even reach it, let alone clear it. They look at the fun and easy people they thought they wanted and see them for what they are, draining, chaotic, and loud. The silence you offered, which perhaps once intimidated them, is now the only thing they want. They want you back because you ruined their palate for anything less than excellence. They are realizing that once you have tasted the complexity and richness of a Sigma female's soul, everything else just tastes like bland, processed filler. They are coming back because they are hungry for something real, and they have finally learned that in a world full of artificial flavors, you were the only organic thing they ever touched. 2. The unfinished business. When a Sigma female decides that a connection is no longer viable, she does not engage in the typical theatrics of a breakup. There are no screaming matches in the driveway, no long tear-stained letters listing every grievance, and no late-night desperate phone calls begging for a second chance. Instead, she executes the legendary Sigma door slam. She processes her emotions privately, comes to a logical conclusion that the relationship is dead, and then she simply detaches. She removes her energy, her attention, and her presence with surgical precision. To the person on the other end, this feels like walking down a hallway and having the floor suddenly drop out from under them. They are left falling into a void of silence, grasping for a handhold that isn't there. This lack of dramatic closure drives them absolutely insane because human beings are hardwired to seek narrative coherence. We need a beginning, a middle, and an end. But the Sigma female denies them the ending. She gives them a cliffhanger and then cancels the show. This silence creates a vacuum that their mind frantically tries to fill. They start to obsess over the lack of reaction. They ask themselves, why isn't she fighting for me? Why isn't she angry? Did I mean nothing to her? The Sigma female's refusal to engage in the post-breakup posturing makes them question the entire reality of the relationship. They are used to partners who validate the breakup by making it a big event, because if it's a big fight, it means the relationship was big too. By walking away with indifference, the Sigma female inadvertently signals that the person was not worth the energy of an argument. This blow to the ego is devastating. It plants a seed of doubt that grows into a forest of obsession. They start to replay every conversation, looking for the moment she checked out, but because she is so guarded, they can't find it. They are left with a puzzle that has the final piece missing, and they cannot put the box away until they find it. Consequently, they come back not because they are overcome with love, but because they are overcome with curiosity. They are returning to the scene of the crime to see if they can finally get a reaction. They want to provoke the Sigma female into an emotional display just to prove that they still have power over her. They want the closure of a fight or the closure of a sad goodbye, anything other than the cold grey fog of her silence. They are desperate to solve the mystery of her detachment. They need to know if she still cares, and the only way to find out is to poke the bear. But what they fail to understand is that for a Sigma female, the silence is the closure. Her absence is the answer. By coming back to demand an explanation, they are only proving that they are still trapped in the loop she has long since exited, leaving them to shout into the void while she has already moved on to a different frequency. Before we move on, I want to ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a toxic situation without saying a single word and watched it drive them absolutely crazy? If you have mastered the art of the Sigma silence, hit that subscribe button right now. You are in the right place. And we are building a community of women who know that silence is the loudest answer. Now, you need to be careful, because once they realize they can't get a reaction, they try a different tactic. They try to steal your energy. Let's look at reason number 3. 3. The battery effect. The third, and perhaps most insidious reason why people from the past attempt to circle back into the life of a Sigma female is what we call the battery effect. This dynamic is rooted in the fundamental difference between how you generate energy and how the rest of the world consumes it. As a Sigma female, you are a self-sustaining ecosystem. You generate your own peace, you validate your own worth, and you stabilize your own emotions. You do not require external applause to function. This makes you a walking, breathing power plant in a world full of uncharged devices. When people leave your orbit, they often underestimate just how much of their stability was actually your stability reflected back at them. They go out into the chaotic, draining reality of modern dating and social climbing, and they get chewed up. The world beats them down. Their new relationships, often built on superficiality and drama, deplete their spirit. They run themselves into the ground, chasing highs that don't last, and eventually they hit 1% battery. They find themselves spiritually exhausted, emotionally bankrupt, and intellectually starving. In that moment of depletion, their survival instinct kicks in, and they remember the last time they felt fully charged. They remember you. They come back not because they have suddenly realized they love you, but because they need to plug into your source. You must be extremely wise to spot this, because it often disguises itself as vulnerability. They will come to you with heavy stories, telling you how hard their life has been, how toxic their other exes were, and how you are the only one who ever truly understood me. This sounds like a compliment, but it is actually a transaction. They are seeking a sanctuary. They want to lay their burdens down at your feet because they know you are strong enough to carry them. They want to bask in your calm because they have none of their own. They are essentially energy vampires, looking to siphon off the vitality you have worked so hard to cultivate. They are not returning to add to your life. They are returning to harvest your peace. They view your emotional stability as a resource that they are entitled to consume. This is dangerous for a Sigma female because your natural instinct is to help, to fix, and to provide clarity. But you must realize that this is a parasitic relationship. If you let them back in, you will notice that after every interaction, you feel heavy, drained, and tired, while they leave feeling lighter and energized. That is the transfer of energy occurring in real time. They are using you as a pit stop to refuel their ego and their confidence before they likely take off again to chase the next shiny distraction. They are not bringing a generator of their own to the table. They are bringing a dead battery and expecting you to provide the current. You have built a castle of peace through solitude and hard work. Do not let a tourist treat it like a free hotel where they can trash the room, recharge their devices, and leave without paying the bill. You are a powerhouse, not a public utility, and you must guard your energy with the ruthlessness of a guardian protecting a treasure. 4. The growth witness. While the rest of the world often stagnates, getting caught in repetitive cycles of drama, mediocrity, and comfort, the Sigma female treats her life like a high-stakes project that is constantly under renovation. When she disappears into her solitude, she is not hiding. She is building. She is in the lab, refining her mind, sculpting her body, expanding her financial portfolio, and sharpening her intuition. The person who walked away from a Sigma female usually expects her to crumble without them, or at the very least to remain exactly where they left her, frozen in the version of herself that they knew. But when they check on her 6 months, a year, or 5 years later, and make no mistake, they always check, they are confronted with a version of the Sigma female that is almost unrecognizable in her elevation. They see a woman who has not just moved on, but moved up. She is glowing with a vitality that comes from self-love. Her career has taken off because she channeled her heartbreak into her hustle. Her circle is smaller but richer. She carries herself with a terrifying new level of confidence because she has survived the storm they caused and built a fortress from the debris. This observation triggers a profound sense of regret and seller's remorse. They realize, with a sinking feeling in their gut, that they sold their shares in the Sigma female right before the stock skyrocketed. They bet against her, and they lost. They are forced to witness her winning from the cheap seats of social media or hearsay, while they themselves are often stuck in the same dead-end patterns, dating the same types of people, and complaining about the same problems they had years ago. The contrast between her rapid evolution and their stagnant reality is a bruise to their ego that never quite heals. They see the Sigma female traveling to places they talked about going together. They see her achieving the goals she once whispered to them in the dark. They realize that they were a dead weight, and the moment they cut themselves loose, the Sigma female began to fly. This prompts them to reach out, not out of love, but out of opportunism. They want to attach themselves to her newfound success. They want to bask in the light of the star they tried to dim. However, the Sigma female must be hyper-aware of the audacity of this return. They are trying to access the new her with the old access code. They believe that because they knew the Sigma female when she was struggling or evolving, they are entitled to the fruits of her labor now that she has arrived. They want the upgraded premium version of the Sigma female for the discounted price they paid years ago. They want to skip the hard work, the lonely nights, and the grinding discipline that it took for her to become this woman, and just step right into the winner's circle beside her. But a Sigma female knows the value of her own equity. She knows that they didn't water the seed, so they don't get to taste the fruit. Their desire to return is simply an admission that they failed to recognize a diamond until it was polished by someone else, usually by the Sigma female herself. 5. The world is scary. The world outside of your presence is chaotic, unpredictable, and often cruel. When people leave a Sigma female, they are often chasing excitement, validation, or the thrill of the unknown. They venture out into the dating marketplace or the social scene expecting a playground, but instead they find a battlefield. They encounter partners who are emotionally volatile, friends who are treacherous, and situations that leave them feeling exposed and vulnerable. In the midst of this turbulence, their mind instinctively reaches for the one thing they know is unshakable: you. You are the eye of the storm. You are the lighthouse that stands firm while the waves crash around it. Because you are logical, grounded, and fiercely self-possessed, you represent a level of safety that they cannot find anywhere else. They come back to you, not because they want to build a life with you, but because they want to hide behind you. They are terrified of the storms they have created in their own lives, and they view your strength as a shelter they are entitled to occupy until the weather clears. This dynamic is flattering on the surface. After all, it feels good to be needed, but it is ultimately dehumanizing. They are reducing you to a utility. They are treating you like a rehabilitation center for their broken ego. They come to you when they are overwhelmed, anxious, or defeated, knowing that you will offer rational advice, a calm demeanor, and a listening ear. They want you to play the role of the therapist, the mother, or the savior. They want to dump their chaos onto your orderly life and have you sort it out for them. They crave the structure you provide because they lack the internal discipline to create it for themselves. They remember that when they were with you, they slept better. They remember that you solved problems before they even became problems. They are returning to the safety of your competence because the incompetence of the world scares them to death. However, you must recognize this for what it is: a regression. They are not coming back as an equal partner ready to contribute to your empire. They are coming back as a frightened child seeking a parent. They want to crawl back into the womb of your stability. This is dangerous for you because a Sigma female thrives on mutual growth, not on caretaking. If you allow them back in under the guise of friendship or trying again, you will quickly find yourself burdened with the heavy lifting of their emotional regulation. They will use your strength to prop up their weakness, and the moment they feel strong again, the moment they feel safe, they will likely leave again to chase the excitement they think they are missing. You are a fortress, yes, but a fortress is designed to keep enemies out, not to house refugees who only appreciate the walls when they are under attack. You must deny them entry, not because you are cruel, but because you know that true safety comes from facing the storm, not hiding from it in a house you didn't build. Let's pause here for a second because this is crucial. How many of you have had an ex or an old friend pop back up just to dump their emotional baggage on you? They don't want you. They want a free therapist. If you are done fixing broken people who had the audacity to leave you, type "not my job" in the comments below. Set that boundary today. Let them hire a professional, but sometimes their return isn't about safety at all. Sometimes it is purely about vanity. This brings us to the next point. 6. The ego check. Often, this return has absolutely nothing to do with genuine interest, remorse, or a desire for reconciliation. Instead, it is a purely narcissistic exercise designed to validate their own sense of importance. When a Sigma female goes silent, which she inevitably does, completely removing her energy and attention from the equation, it creates a void where their ego used to be fed. Most people are accustomed to chasing, pleading, or at least some form of lingering attachment from past partners. The Sigma female's ability to detach so thoroughly and exist so comfortably in her own solitude is a direct affront to their vanity. They start to wonder, does she even miss me? Am I that forgettable? Did I have zero impact on her life? These questions gnaw at them, not because they care about her well-being, but because they care about their own relevance. So, they reach out with a low-effort text, a random like on an old photo, or a casual, "Hey stranger," DM. This outreach is a test. They are throwing a pebble into a still lake just to see if they can make ripples. If the Sigma female responds, even with a polite, neutral, or brief message, they get exactly what they came for: ego kibble. They receive the confirmation that they still have access to her, that they can still command a fraction of her attention, and that the door is not completely bolted shut. Once they get this hit of validation, they often vanish just as quickly as they appeared. They leave the Sigma female on read or ghost her again, having satisfied their curiosity and refilled their narcissistic supply. They don't actually want to engage in a conversation or rebuild a connection. They just want to know that they could if they wanted to. They want to keep her as an option on the shelf, a trophy they can pull down and polish whenever they feel insecure about their current standing in the dating market. The danger for the Sigma female here is mistaking this breadcrumbing for genuine interest. She might analyze the text, wondering if it means they have changed or if they are finally ready to step up. But the reality is far colder. They are using her as a mirror to admire their own reflection. By engaging with this ego check, she inadvertently hands them power. She breaks her own frame of indifference and proves that she is still susceptible to their influence. The only winning move in this game is not to play. When a Sigma female ignores the ego check completely, leaving the message unread or deleting it without a second thought, she delivers the ultimate blow to their ego. She confirms that their absence is not a void she is trying to fill, but a space she has already repurposed for her own growth. By refusing to feed their vanity, she forces them to confront the brutal truth. They are not the main character in her story anymore. They are just a deleted scene. 7. The soul connection, the rare depth. The seventh and the most poignant reason why someone circles back to you is the haunting realization of the soul connection. Unlike the other reasons, which are often driven by ego, boredom, or opportunism, this return is driven by a profound spiritual ache. In a world that is increasingly obsessed with the superficial, with swipe culture, situationships, and interactions that rarely go deeper than the skin, a Sigma female offers an intimacy that is terrifyingly rare. You do not just connect with people on a physical or social level. You connect with them on a mental and soulful frequency. You see who they are behind their masks. When you were together, you likely understood them in ways they didn't even understand themselves. You held space for their silence. You challenged their intellect. You touched parts of their psyche that had been dormant for years. At the time, they might have taken this for granted, assuming that this level of being seen was normal in relationships. But once they stepped out of your aura and into the cold reality of the modern dating market, they were hit with a brutal truth. Most people are not looking at their soul, they are looking at their stats. They go on dates where the conversation feels like an interview. They sleep next to people who feel like strangers. They realize that they are surrounded by bodies, yet they have never been more alone. This isolation triggers a deep, resonant longing for the specific frequency that only you provided. They are suffering from a phantom limb syndrome of the heart. They can still feel the connection with you even though you are gone, and it hurts. They come back because they have realized that you were not just a partner, you were a mirror that reflected their highest self. They are haunted by the memory of conversations that lasted until 3 a.m., where nothing was off limits. They miss the way you could communicate with just a look. They miss the safety of being fully known and still accepted. This realization usually comes with a heavy dose of shame. They know they fumbled a rare diamond while they were busy collecting stones. They look back at their decision to leave you and view it as a spiritual error, a miscalculation of destiny. However, you must be extremely wise when handling this type of return. While their regret might be genuine and their longing for your depth might be real, you have to ask yourself a critical question. Why did they have to lose you to appreciate you? A soul connection should be recognized in the presence, not just in the absence. If they were too immature to handle your depth, then are they truly ready for it now, or are they just lonely? They are returning because they are spiritually starving in a world of shallow connections, but that does not mean it is your job to feed them again. You are a rare event in the universe, not a repeating occurrence for those who failed to watch the show the first time. It is a heavy realization for them, isn't it? Knowing they fumbled the rarest connection they will ever find. If you know, deep down, that you offered them a depth they will never find in anyone else, drop a diamond in the comments. Confirm your value. And this leads us to the final, and perhaps the most brutal realization they face, the math of their mistake. 8. The grass was not greener. When they initially chose to walk away from the Sigma female, they were likely suffering from a delusional case of grass is greener syndrome. They looked at her quiet intensity, her need for solitude, and her refusal to perform for social validation, and they convinced themselves that there was something better out there. They fantasized about a partner who was louder, more fun in the conventional sense, perhaps easier to manipulate, or simply shiny and new. Driven by a fear of missing out and an overestimation of their own market value, they jumped the fence. They left the sanctuary of the Sigma female's loyalty to explore the greener pastures of the dating world. However, once they landed on the other side, they didn't find a lush garden. They found a septic tank. They found a landscape populated by people who play mind games, who are emotionally volatile, who demand constant attention, and who offer absolutely no substance in return. They start dating others, and with every new interaction, the comparison to the Sigma female becomes more glaring and more painful. They go on a date with someone who talks incessantly about trivialities, and they miss the Sigma female's meaningful silence. They deal with a partner who creates drama for sport, and they ache for the Sigma female's logical calm. They realize that what they thought was boring or too serious was actually peace and stability, luxuries that are almost impossible to find in the modern era. This realization creates a profound sense of buyer's remorse. They understand now that the grass was only greener on the other side because it was fertilized with illusions. The Sigma female was the real deal, authentic, grounded, and rare, while the people they left her for are merely cheap imitations of a high-value partner. They try to find her depth in others, but they hit the shallow bottom every single time. The math of their decisions starts to collapse. They traded a diamond for a pocketful of glitter, thinking the sparkle meant value, only to watch it wash away in the rain. Now they want to reverse the transaction. They come crawling back, hoping that the Sigma female has been waiting pining for them, unaware that while they were out failing, she was busy raising her own value even higher. They want to undo their mistake and reclaim the spot they foolishly abandoned. But for a Sigma female, this is the ultimate insult. She knows that she is not a backup plan, a safety net, or a consolation prize for a gambler who lost their bet. She understands that if they had to leave her to realize her worth, they never truly saw her to begin with. The fence they jumped over is now a wall, and while they stand on the other side looking back at the garden they took for granted, the Sigma female simply closes the blinds. She knows that the grass is greenest where you water it, and they chose to let her wither while they chased a mirage. 9. You are the blueprint. This goes beyond simple memory or nostalgia. This is about a fundamental rewiring of their psychological preferences. When someone spends a significant amount of time with you, your unique combination of independence, intellect, and emotional depth leaves a permanent mark on their subconscious. You effectively become the blueprint against which all future partners are measured. They might leave you thinking they want something different, something simpler or less intense. But once they step back into the world, they realize that you have ruined them for the average. They find themselves on dates with perfectly nice people, yet they feel a nagging sense of dissatisfaction because the new person doesn't challenge them the way you did. They miss the way you could dismantle their ego with a single look. They miss the way your silence spoke volumes. They miss the electric tension of being around a woman who doesn't need them. Without even trying, you raised their threshold for stimulation, and now everything else feels flat, colorless, and lacking in texture. They are walking around with a Sigma-shaped hole in their psyche that no one else can fill because no one else has your specific architecture. This imprint drives them to return because they are suffering from a form of cognitive dissonance. They are trying to move forward, but their brain keeps looping back to the standard you set. You will often find that when they start dating someone new, they try to mold that person into a version of you. They might buy their new partner the books you recommended or take them to the places you discovered, desperately trying to recreate the atmosphere of the Sigma female with an actor who doesn't know the lines. It is a cruel and unfair thing to do to a new partner, but it is a testament to how deeply you have infiltrated their mind. They are chasing a ghost. They realize that you were not just a phase, you were a paradigm shift. This realization is terrifying for them because it means they cannot just move on in the traditional sense. To truly move on, they would have to lower their standards back to where they were before they met you, and once a mind has been expanded by a Sigma female, it never shrinks back to its original dimensions. They come back to you because they are tired of pretending that the good enough options out there are actually satisfying. They want the original blueprint. They want the source code. However, you must be extremely cautious with this realization. Just because you are the standard does not mean they are worthy of the upgrade. They are returning because they are addicted to the quality of life you provided, not necessarily because they are ready to provide the same quality in return. You are the architect of their new reality, but that does not mean you have to live in the house they failed to build. You are the blueprint, and blueprints are not meant to be altered by people who don't understand the vision. Ultimately, the phenomenon of exes, old friends, and past flames circling back to a Sigma female is not a random occurrence. It is a universal law known as the Sigma recall. It is a testament to the fact that you possess a gravity that the rest of the world lacks. However, this return is not a victory lap for them. It is a final test of wisdom for you. You are currently standing at the gate of your own life, a gate that you have fortified with silence, self-respect, and hard-earned boundaries. The knocking you hear is not destiny trying to give you a second chance. It is the past trying to rob you of your future. You must understand that just because someone wants you back does not mean they value you. It often means they have failed to replace you. They are returning to the scene of their biggest mistake, losing you, hoping that your nostalgia is stronger than your logic. But a Sigma female does not operate on nostalgia. She operates on data. And the data shows that if they were capable of appreciating you, they never would have left in the first place. You are the prize, and the fundamental rule of high-value existence is that the prize does not chase the player, nor does it lower its price for a buyer who couldn't afford it the first time. You must be the judge, not the victim. When they reappear with their apologies, their "I miss you" texts, and their sudden epiphanies about your worth, you must look at them with the cold, analytical detachment of a queen surveying a petitioner. Ask yourself, are they back because they have grown into a person who deserves a seat at your table? Or are they back because they are hungry and your table is the only one with food? Are they back to give, or are they back to take? In almost every case, they are back because they are thirsty, and you are the only water in the desert. But you are not a public well. You are a private reservoir reserved for those who helped you dig it. Do not let the flattery of their return trick you into unlocking the door. The greatest act of self-love a Sigma female can perform is to leave the door shut. Let them stand outside. Let them realize what they lost. Let them sit with the consequences of their actions. Do not recycle people. Do not reopen chapters that you have already written a fitting ending to. The version of you that they knew is gone. She has evolved into a woman they can no longer afford. By denying them access, you are not being cruel. You are being wise. You are honoring the growth that happened in their absence. You are affirming to the universe that you are moving forward, not backward. The fact that they want you back is their karma. The fact that you don't need them back is your power. Stand firm in your solitude. Keep your standards sky high. Let them miss the water, let them stay thirsty, and let them watch from a distance as you continue to ascend. Their regret is the only closure you need. Stay mysterious, stay unreachable, and remember, in the top 1% there are no U-turns.